In a climate of change and uncertainty, no one has time or money to waste on expensive mistakes. So, if you want to incorporate live video into your marketing strategy, then this is just the right show for you. My amazing guest, Ross Brand, has put together an international all star panel of 100 people and launched his first book, an Amazon bestseller called 100 Live Streaming and Digital Media Predictions. Top content creators help you succeed in an era of rapid change. So you too can avoid making potentially expensive mistakes with live streaming. For more on this and to meet up with Ross Brand, stay with us. Don't go away. Almost 3 billion people and counting are consuming video content on their devices. Be.Live Media helps brands position their products and services to people at a time and manner that's convenient to them. If you would like to reach your customers and clients and stay ahead of your competitors, then connect with us. If you're just joining us, welcome to Books with Brigetti. I'm your host, Brigetti Limbanda from Cape Town in South Africa, and our live stream is made possible by StreamYard and Be.Live Media. Welcome to you, all our viewers, whether you're watching us on Facebook, on Amazon, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Do know that this is an audience-centric show. I am monitoring the comments, so please feel free to say hello. If you're brand new, if you've never, ever seen me go live, then type new in the comments and we'll give you a shout out. Our guest today is the amazing Ross Brand. He is an award-winning live streaming strategist with a dedicated following among digital influencers. Ross has served as an on-air personality for industry brands such as StreamYard, LiveU, Be.Live TV, and also as a brand ambassador for Telestream's Wirecast. Ross has done something phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. He put together an international all-star panel that includes Hall of Fame podcasters, YouTube stars, live stream pioneers, best-selling authors, CEOs, event organizers, and even a two-time Emmy winner, as well as a legendary rapper, and launched his amazing first book called 100 Live Streaming and Digital Media Predictions. So let's not waste any more time. I'm going to ask you to put your hands together and help me welcome Ross to the show.
Thank you for having me, Brigetti. That was some introduction. I'm so glad to be here.
Ross, it's great to have you. My goodness, how long have we been in the live streaming together? This is probably my sixth or going on my seventh year, and it's just been an amazing journey.
Yeah,
Coming from the Blab days, wow.
That's where I got my start. And when I stumbled into Blab, I didn't even know that it was a live video talk show kind of format. I didn't know what to expect. I just knew that Brian Fanzo had posted that he's having a Twitter chat, and afterwards they'll be talking about it in Blab. And I thought, well, this must be some sort of enhanced text chat or something. And next thing I know, I'm in like talk radio heaven with these webcams, and I loved it instantly. And I said, this is the future. This is where everybody could have their own show, their own way to communicate, their own way to get their message out without having to go through gatekeepers, without having to fit somebody else's format or move to another market. So I loved it the instant I got in there. And I don't know if you know this, but my plan was not to be on camera or on microphone. My plan was to actually cover what other people were doing. And so I started out by sharing what other people were doing. And then eventually I said, well, if I go live, I could promote the website. And of course, once I did the show, I realized that people reacted shockingly, right? They react more to live streaming than they do to something posted in a blog or social. And there was no going back. I loved it from the minute I hosted the first show.
So, Roz, I want to just give a huge shout out to the amazing people in the comments here who's joined us. Brian Schulman is there. Tim Sohn is there.
Yeah.
Guys, just welcome to the show. So glad that you can join us. It's amazing to have you here. And Robert, welcome. Great to have you join us. So I have just got to ask you, Roz, were you, as a little boy that was running around the house with his mother's hairbrush, singing into the hairbrush?
Well, I did a few, played a little air guitar, and I did a few, wanted to be on stage singing or whatever, but I didn't have a singing voice, and I was pretty shy as a kid, so I didn't really plan on doing this kind of stuff. I was writing for newspapers and decided that might be fun to talk instead of write all the time. We were having all these interesting conversations in the newsroom. The editor was always like, shut up and work, shut up and write, be quiet, or you're not working. So I'm like, what if I could do something where I could just talk and not have to be writing on deadline constantly? So of course I did a book in which I had a lot of deadline and dealing with words. But I got started. I was going to do a music show, then I was going to do news talk, and then one day I stumbled into doing a sports interview, and I saw the way people responded to me when I talked about sports, and I said, okay, might be my third choice, but it seems to be the first choice of the audience, and they get to decide. So I spent 12 years doing sports on radio.
So how did where did you get the confidence? Apart from the fact that you have the ideal voice, when did it occur to you that you could actually speak in front of a microphone and be comfortable with that? Because it's not something that comes naturally to most people. Most people have to kind of bend their own arm or twist their arm to persuade themselves that they could do this. What was it like for you?
I got comfortable by doing it over and over and over again. I mean, when I was getting into radio, I used to go home, and at that time, newspapers were everywhere, and I used to literally read article after article, but read it out loud as though I was talking to somebody instead of reading it. I wasn't reading it like I was reading to you. I was reading it like I was talking it to you, so that I would get comfortable picking up anything and talking about it. And I've always been, since I got into radio, like I say, I was always shy, but when I got into radio, I realized that I was better unscripted, not reading, off the cuff than I was. And so that's always been something for me, that the less that I have to deal with notes and things in front of me and distractions, the more that I lose myself in the moment. But I got to tell you, I was nervous, and it really, in the beginning when I was doing radio, I was nervous before every time I went on air. And, it took time till I got comfortable. And even when I started live streaming, video was new to me. So I was uncomfortable with that. But as far as like I always had the confidence that I could do a good show. And so that's where I just try to put all my energy into that. But I would say it takes a long time. It took a long time to get to this point. And I think also because I took time in between my radio career and when I found live streaming. And so I was very much at ease with like whatever this turned out to be, because I had done it for a while. I was like, I'm done with this. I'm never doing anything like this again. I enjoyed it, but I've got a new life now, and this is like in the past. And so when I came back to this, it's just been a joy to be able to do this on my own terms, and I think that has to do with it. But it's repetition, and it's enjoying the conversation, getting lost in the moment, and thinking about not thinking too much, right? Thinking about not thinking too much.
Don't overthink it too much. It's very interesting that you were saying that you used to read things to yourself, because one of the things people struggle with when they start live streaming is people hate the sound of their own voice. And I hear people say that over and over, I sound terrible. But it's because they don't understand the dynamics of how it works, and that you do
Right.
sound differently to other people than yourself. But if you're constantly hearing yourself, you're used to hearing your voice, it's so much easier when you start speaking. What was the transition like for you going from radio and not being seen to actually be on camera? How did you get used to the fact? I remember it was terrible. I used to have sweaty palms. I
Right.
always tell people I never want to forget what it was like. My heart used to beat in my chest. And I used to literally almost hold onto my desk for dear life, as if that was going to make a difference.
So what I did was I recreated in my own mind that I was doing a radio talk show in my head. So at the time I knew nothing about video when we started doing this. So I used the built-in camera in my laptop. I had a couple of house lamps. Just the lighting wasn't very good, right? And the camera in your laptop isn't very good. I had no background. There were like a couple of doors behind me and a light switch. And to this day, you probably heard me say it a million times, I don't look in the camera as much as I should. But that was the style I started with. It was sort of like the camera was there, but I was doing radio that was being simulcast on video. Not the way they do simulcast today, where they're very, very video conscious and the camera's right on them as though they were on TV. Back in the 80s or 90s, when they started putting radio shows on, even probably in the 2000s, the camera would be like up in the corner, and they would be doing a radio show and the camera would be looking in on them from a distance. So they never were focused on the camera. So that was kind of the vibe that I was going for in the beginning. Of course, the camera's right in front of me, so it never exactly fits that. But that's how I got comfortable, by just creating a setup and doing what I enjoy doing. And then over time, I've adapted to the video side of things, and I can't imagine doing it without video and without a live chat now. It's an important part of it, I think.
You get so used to it. So I want to ask you kind of a chicken and an egg question,
Sure.
because I see people asking this all the time. People will say, well, start with investing in a microphone, and you can get a better camera later, or you can get lighting later. What's your take on that? Because, for me, it kind of, you don't have to go and get the top range of everything, but, get a decent one of all of them, because to me, collectively, you're going to have a good live stream. What's your advice on that sort of aspect to somebody who's starting out? Do you think it's okay to have a great microphone and a crappy camera with no lighting?
You're talking about me a couple of years ago, right? So I think that, good content on low budget equipment will beat bad content on high expensive equipment any day of the week, and probably twice on Sundays. So you want to bring your content to a level where you then say, what I'm doing now, this could be enhanced if I added a certain kind of light or camera or a better mic. Or you just say for yourself, hey, I'm doing good stuff now. I want to hear it back through an SM7B recording, not through an entry-level mic. But if you have this Samson Q2U, I have no relationship with the company. They don't even know who I am. I've been promoting this mic just because I think it's the best one for people starting out. Most people, mics are very individual, but it's, about 50 to 60, maybe $70 US at the most. You can plug it in USB, but you can also use it with a mixer and a soundboard and audio interface. And I have not recommended it to one person who's said, I'm disappointed this isn't a very good mic. So that's what I did all my live streams on from the beginning. The second thing I would say is, if you can only invest in one, invest in audio. Because, if the video goes out, you can still get the conversation, you can still get the value of what I'm saying and follow along.
Right.
That gets old very quick, right? So you definitely
you'll have people tuning out very quickly.
Right. So you definitely want to make it pleasant to listen to. So I do recommend getting some type of external microphone that isn't the one built into your laptop or built into your computer, although probably they're getting better, the ones built into computers. But I think $59, or go live with your cell phone. The mic built into your cell phone is pretty good. You could go live on that without an external mic.
And the cameras on there are amazing.
The camera's amazing. Camera's better than any webcam you would buy. So yeah, I think an external webcam can be good. The computer webcams are getting much better in the modern cameras. But ultimately, use what you have. Use house lighting. Use the sun as an excellent source of lighting. It doesn't cost anything. And depending where you live, it comes up most days and it's there for you. Keep it in front of you, not behind you. And I think, just keep working on doing the show. Keep showing up. Keep being there. Keep connecting with people. Keep bringing value and have a good time and really enjoy being on. If you have guests, enjoy being on with your guests. If you're talking to your audience more like an Ask Me Anything Q&A style, enjoy that, and people will respond to it regardless of what camera or microphone you're on. And then you can decide, okay, my show would be better if I had a little bit better audio, or it would be better. But it doesn't, spending 3 times the amount doesn't make your audio 3 times better. And then as you get more expensive equipment, you then need more equipment to use with that equipment, right? So you get an audio interface. Now you need XLR cables. You need, you need to route that audio into your computer from here, from there. There's always more.
It's a rabbit hole. It's a rabbit hole.
Right.
Once you start, it's very hard to stop because you always want the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But as Brian Schulman just said, just show up.
Yeah.
Get started, because we all have to start somewhere. Someone, I forgot whose name was now, he always says, to write a book, you've got to have your chapter 1. Without a chapter 1, you're never going to have a book.
Right. Yeah, and I think if your chapter 1 is you went out and you bought, hundreds or thousands of dollars worth of gear, and then the first time you go live, because the first time I did radio, it was horrible. It was, and the second time wasn't that great. And each time got a little bit better. And even if you look back at my first live stream, I'm sure you're not going to go, okay, this is sort of a polished product like it is now, right? So what's important is that you just focus on getting that experience. If you go out and you spend a ton of money on gear and then your first one isn't very good, you're sort of like all dressed up and nowhere to go, and you're feeling like, oh my God, like I thought I was going to be good at this. I just wasted, you don't need that. Get it once you're ready for it. But like I say, whether you use expensive equipment or not, it's your content that matters. It's what you have to say first and foremost, and how people respond to that.
Absolutely. So you put together last year, was it the year before, the celebration, you were celebrating your 5th year, right? And you got together this whole crowd of amazing people. How did you do that? I mean, to get together so many people, what did it take to put together something of that magnitude? Because not many people would even dare go there.
Right, right. So I think there have been between 550 and 600 people who have been featured in the predictions over the 6 years now. So subtract whatever people I grabbed who were new this year. And then there have been, I was figuring it out around that time. I don't know if I've done 700 live streams and 600 interviews, or 600 live streams, 500 interviews, whatever. I did my best. So obviously there's people who repeat every year and people I've had on, but I did my best wherever I could find an email address to invite all those people. And whoever responded, there were like, I don't know if I think there were 50 something spots, and then the response came right in. So I increased it to 82 spots or something like that. Of course, people can't make it, things come up, whatever. And also I didn't do a great job of managing the clock. So people were late for their time slot. So we ended up with 60 people on live. But in the past, everybody had always submitted their predictions in writing. And it's when you say somebody, okay, I always want to make it easy. So send me 2 or 3 sentences. You're welcome to write a little bit longer and somebody will send a paragraph, right? And
Right.
you end up, but if you ask somebody, hey, we're going to do live, I'll just a few sentences. Nobody just talks the same way they write. So they're going to talk more. And then there's the conversation before and the conversation after. And I'm going to ask you a question about it. And all of a sudden, you've got a ton of content. And that's how it came together. Originally, I was doing the annual blog post, and I just pulled out everybody's prediction. And then I said, there's a lot of good stuff in the conversation. It sort of puts into context. Like when we talked about Blab earlier, we talked about when we first connected or any of that stuff. And it gives people who are new to this some context of what's going on in the community. And it's also nice for us to sort of have that as something... I don't know. I'm not really explaining it that well, but I just think I felt there was more there. And I always kept asking myself, does anybody care about this other than the people in the book? And I'm okay if just the people in the book care about it, because that's great. But obviously other people like it, because I've gotten feedback from people saying that they love that. And to me, 5 years from now, I know I'll enjoy looking back on the conversation aspect of a lot of the predictions, more so than whether the prediction came true or what it was about. What in the 2015 predictions, we were talking about what was going to be the impact of Facebook Live, right? Was it going to be, was that going to be a Blab killer? Was the big fear for everybody who had committed to Blab. Of course, Blab went out and killed itself. So
Yes, it did. Didn't
I don't know if I answered
anyone?
the question.
Need help from anyone?
But yeah, so I just, there was so much good content there, and everybody's answer was a lot longer than just a blog answer. So the first thing I did was I put it into the blog, and then I realized that when it was in the blog that it was like 40-something thousand words. So I'm like,
Wow,
that's a book.
My gosh.
And then I talked to Dale Roberts, who's an expert in self-publishing and knows Amazon and knows the industry. And he said, you know what you should do? You should go get some original content. You should write some extra chapters so that there's something that is new. And I said, well, I like having somebody write a foreword. And he said, yeah, that's great. And I said, okay, I've already asked Jenny Q to do that. And so I said, well, what if I just went out and got more predictions from people who wanted to come to the party, but
Couldn't.
either they couldn't make it, they couldn't get in, they didn't open the email in time, or maybe they weren't in my universe at that time, but they've since been guests on my show. And I invited people to contribute predictions, and some did, and we ended up with 24 predictions that are exclusive to the book. So you combine that with the preface and some of the resources in the back, and Jenny Q's a wonderful forward, and you probably got almost 30% of the book is brand new, has never been published or put out there before. And for most people outside of our live streaming community here, it's all going to be new. And I felt like with the pandemic and live streaming being such a lifeline for people, now it was time to sort of share this beyond the people who are going live a lot or creating digital content a lot, and the people that we have on our shows and follow our blog posts and our videos. So that's kind of what I thought, like, okay, the time is right to do this for a book, and then we'll see, and obviously the response has been beyond anything I ever imagined.
It absolutely has been. I mean, the response to me from the live streaming community has been beyond phenomenal, but I also believe that it's not just for the live streaming community. A lot of people out there have not yet embraced live video as part of their marketing strategy, and I think there's a lot of insights in there for people who are still doing only traditional marketing. Thank you, Ross, that's so kind of you.
So it's there we go. It's chapter 46, I believe, page 198 and 199 and 200 and page 201. And we've got a screenshot from the event here on one side, a graphic quote with Brigetti's picture on the other, and just a great prediction, and a very business-focused prediction about where we're going with job searching and your digital footprint and online resumes, job interviews via video, via live video. Great stuff from Brigetti.
Thanks, Ross. And I've spoken to a lot of people who are not getting a job because they don't know how to present themselves on camera, because everything is on camera now. People are doing their interviews on camera, and so they are looking for tips on how to present themselves better. And I think from that perspective, there's a lot that they can learn by reading the book. So it's not just necessarily for the live streaming community, because everyone's on video these days.
Right.
What were some of the predictions that surprised you in the book? Or were there any that surprised you?
Wow. There were so many that surprised me. Andrew Haley mentioned that the creator economy was going to double this year. And I really wasn't really familiar with the term creator economy. And now it's become one of those things where you hear it once and now you're seeing it everywhere, your eyes are open to it. But it just gave me another sense of like why I wanted to do when I started monetize live streaming. Now it's like there's so many opportunities out there for people. But most people don't necessarily think about all the different ways you could monetize live streaming. And it doesn't mean that you have to get sponsors or you're going to have a huge audience and sell a ton of affiliate products. You can turn your live streams into a book. You can, create a course on whatever your area of expertise is and have it live in part or in full rather than have it, audio or video on demand or text. There's so many different ways that people use. Virtual summits are another way. You can be the host of it and on camera, or you can be the person who organizes it. If you've been doing this for a while, you're good at producing. As you know, there's opportunities to produce for people who want to get on and do a show but don't want to run the technical aspects of it or, deal with the promotion of it. There's so many different ways that people can monetize live streaming. It's not easy, but people are doing it, and you have to sort of look at the different ways people are doing it, and that's what I wanted to present with the event. And then people can really say, okay, there's my strength, that person's doing something where I could use my strength. Let me figure out what they're doing and listen to them and look at that lane, because there are lanes open, but it's not always obvious where the opportunities are. And it's getting harder to just do it like, I'm just going to go live and I'm going to create a popular show. It's very hard to build an audience right now on social media. I feel very fortunate that we got in and before social media became so pay to play and lack of organic reach, and where you could connect with people and there were discussions going on. It wasn't so automated, and it wasn't so at the whims of today's algorithm versus yesterday's and so forth, where I feel it is. Although somebody like Brian Schulman in the chat is always got things going on LinkedIn, and he's like a hub of activity on LinkedIn. So if you I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it's not easy these days. But you can use your talent in other ways, to use the live video technology to monetize that talent, to monetize your expertise, or to monetize, so to speak, I don't mean this in a crude way, but monetize your audience. If you have an audience, you can provide things of value to your audience that, you provide free content, but there are things of value you can provide that your audience would pay for.
I was going to ask you that, so what would you say to someone, because a lot of people sort of think, live streaming is just a hobby. Mm-hmm. It's something you do on the side, alongside your day job, that it's not something you can do full time or earn an income from. How did you hit upon this idea of monetizing it so that this can become your day job? And how did you pivot into turning this into an income stream?
Well, I would say that I'm not so much saying that people should quit their day job or it's going to replace their day job. I think if they're live streaming as a hobby, they have the ability to make more money in their day job if they're a business owner, they're a consultant, they're a coach, they're a subject matter expert, whether they're working for a company or they're working on their own. There are ways they can use live video to attract more people, to interest more people, and eventually you'll even close the sale. And one of the things that I kind of developed probably maybe almost 5 years ago, I guess, I took the approach to social media where I was helping people develop their social media footprint who had not been on at all. Like, they were totally new to this. Let's say they worked for a law firm and they thought they were going to be a partner for their whole career and they were making a good income. They would never need to use social media. And then they retired, or they were retired, or what have you.
Well, they thought they were retired.
Right. Now it's like, how do I want to do consulting, or I want to have my own practice. How do I get attention? How do I compete? I have a LinkedIn profile that has my name and the name of my company and nothing else, right? So I came up with this process. I call it the portfolio method. And so it doesn't rely on having any number of followers. Of course, it's good to have some. But what you want to do is you want to make the most of these profiles because they come up high in Google searches. So your focus, instead of on attracting the world and top of the funnel and all that kind of stuff, you focus on closing warm leads with your social media. So instead of thinking I'm going live and a success is if I get 1,000 people to watch on Facebook Live, a success is if I get a good quality clip from this that I can post on the homepage of my website. If I can post that on my YouTube channel, if I can put that in my Twitter feed and maybe make it my pinned tweet for a month or a week or a day, that's a successful live stream. And you probably have a better chance of converting one warm lead because they see your online footprint and it confirms for them that recommendation from somebody to work with you than you do going out to thousands of people and just hoping that somebody goes, hey, I want to buy your product and service. And I'm not saying that like I'm playing not to have people watch and all that. Like, I want to have an audience. I want to, there's a lot of different ways to do it. But if you're starting in the beginning, if you're looking for a job, if you're starting a new business, the first thing you ought to do is Google yourself, see what comes up in the first 5 results, and get in there and update those bios. You know how many people are like don't have their current bio on their Twitter? They may be tweeting 16 times a day, but their link is from 3 years ago. Or, like, understand that the person new who's trying to decide in a quick, glance whether they're going to work with you or not is going to look at what you brilliantly called your digital CV, your online resume. They're going to look at your bio. They're going to see what you're highlighting. They're going to look at your pin post. If it's LinkedIn, they're going to look to see, do you have any portfolio items? What are the pictures there? What does your headline say, the first line? If it's YouTube, they're going to look at your banner. Use that stuff. That's there for you, and you control it. And that alone is a start. And on your website, keep your bio, your about page. I made all these mistakes, and even as I teach this, it's very hard with all the time commitments and all the things we're trying to do. But this is the essence of building a brand online that will last, whether or not you have an audience for your live streams, or you get 1,000 likes or you get no likes on a post. It's when I want to work with Brigetti and I go watch a video, I can go, okay, she does a professional show. This will be a good experience. I like what she does. Of course, I've known you for years, but if I was checking you out for the first time because you invited me on the show, what impression do I get? Okay, your stuff is organized. You're consistent. You're professional. All these things matter. They don't matter if I was going to come on if I was going to come on some like dirty comedy show, then I would be looking for a different vibe. But the fact is, for what I was looking for, this would be an absolute closer to be able to find your videos and find them where it's easy to find. Okay, and so the last thing on this, I know I've been going on quite a while on it, but the last thing on this is why live versus just recording something and putting it up there? Because there's a way we talk. That's an important
question.
There's a way we talk. There's a way we talk when we're live. There's a spontaneity to it. There's an unscripted way that we talk that it just seems more genuine and real. And there's nothing better, for example, for your business than a live testimonial. Having somebody sit there and, I had a great time on Brigetti's show. She's a very good host. I highly recommend. Versus me just going and saying what I said before. Yeah, Brigetti's highly professional. She's been doing this for a long time. She's got a great setup. She's got a great on-camera presence and is a terrific interview, does her preparation. Now, that is far more powerful to me than if I read a script. And even for me, and I've been doing this for a while, there's a difference in how it comes across if I'm reading versus if I'm doing this off the top of my head. And so that's why live, because they're getting a clip from you in the moment and they're judging how you relate to people in the moment, how you deal with concepts, what your sort of business approach is. They get a sense of all that right away, like who you are, what makes you tick. It's very different in a scripted video. They get a sense of your sort of video production ability. But unless you're selling video production services, you're really selling you. You want them to be like, hey, I want to hang out with or work with that person in the video. That'll be fun.
Absolutely. I just want to give a huge big shout out to Brian, who's been sharing all these amazing statistics and things in the comments, and just everything he shared are golden nuggets. So if you're not watching the show live and you're catching the replay, I'm purposely putting all these comments on the screen here because just amazing comments about live video and the value and why you need to
Right.
embrace live video into your marketing strategy and how you can do so successfully. You know, and I like what you said. It's not scripted because life's not scripted,
Right.
and
And
it's
one thing,
also,
if I can, Brigetti, just about Brian, because you're talking about it, he's one of the people who really lives up to what he says. A lot of people get on and they talk about engagement and supporting others, and it's great when they're on stage in the speech, but it doesn't happen when they're in real life. Brian really shows up for people. He supports them. He's a part of other people's success. And I just wanted to say that, he really lives what he speaks. So,
it's true, because a lot of people saying one thing and showing it is a completely different story.
right.
Um, I also like the aspect of live video in that you have the ability to be your authentic self.
Yes.
There's no such thing as there's not an offline you and an online you. I
Hmm.
That's just not me. I don't want for us to meet up, and I hope someday we do in the future. i
Right.
wouldn't i wouldn't like for us to meet up at a conference and you go, who the heck was that?
Right. 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 That wasn't the guy from the video. That was,
Exactly. So really, really just be yourself. I always see live video as an opportunity to pull back the curtain
mhm.
on who you are.
Right.
And to me, this is the next best thing. I know a lot of people have struggled with the pandemic, for example, but I've not struggled with that aspect of the pandemic
Right. Right.
because we were already used to being on camera
Mhm.
and we can't meet in person, but this is the next best thing.
It's absolutely the
So
next best thing, and we take it for granted. But just imagine going through the pandemic without it. I
I
mean, just
cannot.
imagine, no video, no Zoom, like we all can laugh about Zoom fatigue, and believe me, I love doing this style much more than I like, the Zoom meeting. Although I think Zoom is a very good. I do love Zoom meetings when it's a group of friends or group of like-minded people. It can be a wonderful thing, but all of it, don't take it for granted. 10 years ago, this wouldn't have been possible. If
No.
this, none of this would have been possible. We wouldn't know each other. Maybe we'd be avatars on Twitter. I wasn't even on Twitter 10 years ago, but regardless, this wouldn't be possible. Here's one other thing that goes along with that, Brigetti, because I think this is key too, is you actually deepen the relationships with the people that you have on your show and whose shows you go on. So again, regardless of what happens with the audience, the show topic brings people together. So we came together to talk about my book. But of course, we end up just being two friends having a conversation. The book may guide it, may a little bit, but overall, we're just talking. And you can even use that strategically to book interviews with people in your industry who you might not have a chance to just cold call or say hello to randomly, and then they come on your show, and now you have something of value because you can put together a show where they're the star and they're the centerpiece of the show. I guess I like being a guest on shows because then it's kind of about me. When I'm hosting shows, it's always about the guest and the topic. It shouldn't be about, my opinion 24/7, right? And so you can build relationships with people that way. And it's a live demonstration of your approach to life and how you work and what you do. I mean, think about a job interview, and in some ways it's silly, right? The way it used to be done. Now there's a lot more preparation, there's a lot more standardized, and there's a lot more different ways to sort of get bias out of the job interview. But in the old days, it used to be two people would go into a room and talk, and if they hit it off, that person got hired if they were somewhat capable. It's like, who did they like best? Who did they have the most enjoyable conversation with, or find out that they both enjoy some hobby of the same, right? And so it's changed. So much has changed, and it's changed for the better because of the technology that we have. So it's very powerful, though, that you can, with live streaming, make those kind of connections, but you have something to offer people because they want to have a chance. I don't care whether they're a CEO or they're, somebody in their first job. Everybody wants to have a chance to share their knowledge and what they've learned with other people and feel like they're making a contribution and be center stage and get their bio. Everybody enjoys that. It never gets old. And so now you've got an opportunity to offer something of value to somebody who has a book, who has a job, who has something that they want to get out there, either because they have an obligation to promote it or just because they like doing this and they like talking on live streams and they want to be a personality outside of their job. So never think that, because the number of people who watch has anything to do on the impact that this will have on your life or on your business or anything like that. All that being said, I want some of that reach back on Facebook. Come on, Facebook, it's time.
Come on, play the game, play the game, play the game. Ross, what has been your most interesting and challenging interview so far?
It's a good question. I mean, it always goes back to a radio interview. Where the first time I was hosting, not hosting, I was in the locker room of the first NBA game, the first professional basketball game I ever covered. And I went up to somebody who was a fairly big name, was a huge star in college and was well known. And he made a lot of shots that day. It was the opening game for the Phoenix Suns. And I went up and I didn't know what to say or what to do or whatever. I was just nervous. It was my first time in that environment, right? And my job was to tape a one-on-one and then bring it back to the post-game host who would then play it like, we're going to go to the locker room where Ross Brand is standing by with the star of the game or whatever. And I said something. A lot of times people will just say something and stick the mic out, and these guys are always ready to talk, right? It really doesn't matter. So I said, they were really looking for you out there, meaning that his teammates were really finding him and passing him the ball. And he just goes, yeah, and says nothing else. And I thought, yeah, okay, so you just had a big game, and you're the star of and that's how you're going to do it, huh? He's a character on social media now. I don't really care for him now. I didn't care for him. But that was a major challenge. Be like, how do you come back from that? And you're doing it in a locker room full of like professionals, and you want to get accepted who are there working, and they've been covering and they know these guys for years, and that was the toughest thing for me to get through and not feel like crushed when I walked out of there. But the other one was I was in a hockey locker room, and the goalie had been pulled, and the backup goalie was a star. And I guess the goalies have their lockers next to each other. I didn't cover hockey very often. But apparently I was outside the group of people around the backup goalie who the entire media was surrounded. And the goalie who got pulled didn't like it that I guess I was a little bit close to his locker, and he started to throw his hockey stick at me. And of course the PR guy grabs me and pulls me away so I don't hurt the world-class athlete. I mean, I'm a shy 20-something-year-old, like, scared of my life. And he's like, come on, Ross, let's get at it.
Oh, my goodness.
So you kind of learn where you fit on the food chain in these things. It's like, okay, he throws a stick at me. He goes in to protect a multi-million-dollar athlete. Like, the thought of throwing a punch at him or anything never occurred to me. It was just in my head. I was like, what the hell are you doing? But so it was my fault that you let 6 goals go by in 2 minutes. That's right. I'm here because the hockey guy couldn't cover the game, and they said take a mic and in those days we used to take this big recorder thing and go down there and get some sound from the locker room. So all I was there to do was hold the mic and get some sound from one of these guys. This guy's throwing a hockey stick at me as though because he can't punch his teammate in the face for having overshadowed him and gone in and had a great game. And of course, he can't fake being happy for the team having won in spite of his. And he went on and he was the starter and all that. But anyway, so those are a couple of really awkward things. Oh, one other quick one that was horrible. And these are all like my first beginning of my. I went up and I introduced myself to the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals, a professional football team. And I was producing a show for somebody who wanted to get him on the show. And instead of introducing myself as myself, I introduced myself as his producer. And I put out my hand and he didn't shake my hand. And what I didn't know is that this guy had been ripping him on the radio and they hated each other. So of course he's not going to shake my hand. So I was totally set up by this guy who I was producing a show for. He goes, go in and talk to... I won't say his name, but go in and talk to this quarterback. And I'm thinking, great, I'm sure he's a good relationship with the starting quarterback. He's been doing a show here for a long time, not knowing that he always rips the guy, and so the guy's not going to be inclined. So a friend who was a reporter for the team, but who I knew through her husband in a different setting, pulled me aside and said, just go up and introduce yourself as yourself and the call letters of the station and build your own self. Don't carry somebody else's baggage in there, even if you're booking somebody for somebody else's show and not for your own. And that turned out to be great advice.
lesson learned, right? Lesson learned the hard way.
So those were the challenging things. It wasn't really the interviews themselves. The only one that was challenging was the one where I locked myself out of the house before the show started. But
oh no,
that was, again, the interview went great, but the challenge was all the stuff to get in and like have the door fixed while I was doing the show.
Oh my gosh, Ross.
There are a few. You do enough of these, you have some crazy experiences. I'm sure if we keep going, I'll come up with all of them.
Hilarious. Have you ever cut a show because you had a terrible guest, or the guest was out of line?
I don't think I have. I don't think I've ever cut a show because of a guest. But I don't quote me on that. I mean, if I went through the archives, there might be one. But I think they've all gone pretty well. Or if they haven't, I, kind of grin and bear it and work through it.
You made lemonade out of lemon.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody was like totally off the wall or something and saying things that were, not part of our conversation, whatever, I might. But I mean, I had one with somebody who was just like dropping F-bomb after F-bomb, and Oops. That isn't the style that I do it on camera. So I don't mind the here or there by accident, but when every other word is that way. But I just kind of grinned and bared it. I mean, I didn't think that. I think people on Blab or whatever we were using at the time had far more offensive stuff they could find than that. So, but I had somebody on who has a pretty raw show, and he was so cool. And he asked me, normally my show, my language is a little rough. Do you want me? What do you want here? And I was like, yeah, if you keep it clean, I
just a tad.
That's the way we do it. And he was perfect. I mean, so it's interesting how somebody who was really a kind of a pro was able to switch it off in order to get what he wanted and what I needed for the show.
Wonderful. You have interviewed so many amazing people in your live streaming career. Is there still a person that you have on your wish list that you sort of think, I really, really would like to bag an interview with this person?
I don't know. I just think about what I want to do a show on, and then who do I know, or who's around, or who could I try to get on that show. But as far as like a bucket list or wish list, no. I mean, I'm not that impressed with celebrities. I think it's great if you get a celebrity guest on, and I think, you know, somebody like Ja Rule, who I had on, just couldn't have been more awesome. I mean, for somebody to be that big a star and to share my stuff and share the show and promote it more than 99% of the people that I have on the show. So, I mean, when somebody tells me, oh, you know, I can't have an extra tweet in my Twitter feed with your show because, you know, I got a launch of this or that. This guy was launching an app and he's a world famous guy with, and it wasn't a problem for him to promote. So that's what I would say. But I'm just saying, like, I enjoy the celebrity interviews, but I don't sit around going like, okay, if I had this movie actor or this great athlete on, that would complete my circle or whatever. That would make this. It doesn't matter.
People are just people at the end of the day.
Yeah,
you know,
I just
that's
enjoy
always been my take in life.
Yeah, I enjoy the doing, and it really doesn't matter to me whether there's one person or a million people watching, or you know, a show is a show. This is what I enjoy doing, and it doesn't much matter to me all the other stuff.
Absolutely. So let's see what Brian says here as we're about to close. Brian says, live streaming is not just about community flowing to us and from us. It's about being part of the community. Absolutely. The reality is your community makes you feel a certain way. They support you, they encourage you, they lift you up, and this is why you show up as well.
Right.
I think that is so well said. You know, I know you would do the same thing. Whether you have one person or you have 100 people, I would put the exact amount of energy into the show, because I also realize that it's not just about the live audience.
Right.
You know, your videos are evergreen. So never forget that. It's not just about the live audience. And even if there's zero audience, put the same energy, if not more, into it.
Right.
And
right.
think longer term, you know.
I'll tell a story that's positive from the sports side. I've certainly anonymously ripped a few athletes, but one thing, when Derek Jeter, for people in the U.S., was a superstar shortstop for the New York Yankees, and before he got his start, Don Mattingly was the star of the Yankees, and they were at spring training together before Jeter had made the team and before Mattingly was playing his last season, and they were doing some drills on a field far from where everybody else was. And they started walking back towards the field. And Mattingly turned to Jeter and said, "Let's run back. You never know who's watching." In other words, showing like kids, or if there's one kid watching, he wants to show them, you run off the field. You don't dilly-dally and lazily, you know, walk off the field. And Derek Jeter, through his entire career, no matter whether he hit the ball a mile or he hit the ball 2 inches, would always run the second the bat hit the ball. And you almost never see professional baseball players do that. But he always ran hard to first, from being 22-year-old kid to being 40-something in his final season. And that's how I kind of feel like you take pride if one person's seeing you do this, and this is what you do. You care more about the quality of it than you care about the size of the audience. And that's like, if there's one person watching and they come away and saying, I had a great experience. But here's the other thing. I tested something where I went live on a channel, on a page that I have that I've never gone live on, right? And it was just me going live, no promotion, no announcement, nothing, right? I literally had 10 people watching the entire broadcast, but I put out a call to action, which isn't something I normally do, but I said, you know, there's this calendar invite, and if you like, I had like 2 or 3 people set up meetings with me. So which is a more successful live stream? One with thousands of people, but nobody wants to do business with you, or one with 10 people watching, but 3. So you know, unless again you're selling advertising by the viewer, think about who you're really trying to reach and what you're trying to get out of it. Or as I like to say, measure your success. And if you're going to use metrics, I'm not a huge, I know you're supposed to look at your analytics. Who cares? But if I do use analytics and metrics, I use business ones, not live streaming ones. A successful conversion to a customer, that's far more important than how many people viewed, unless I can find that views is a leading indicator to some other measure of business success. If not, most of these are just ephemeral statistics that don't mean a lot.
Ross, I've got one final question.
Sure.
I simply have to ask. When you go live for 5 hours, how do you go live for 5 hours without needing to go to the bathroom? I mean, it's like...
Okay. I have like a switch in my body that just turns on when I go live. I mean, I like, it just, the light goes on and it's like, I'm just really focused. And unless there's an emergency or something, I just do it. I mean, I just plug away. With the 8-hour event, I had a chance to put on a video for a couple seconds and escape. And also I had a couple of speakers who were just going to be on solo, and it was early enough in their term. But there's more information anybody ever wanted to know. And it's very close to where I am broadcasting from. All that having been said, I'm an introvert, and so when the camera goes off, I usually feel kind of drained and I got to recover. But one of the things you learn about in radio is that nobody cares if you're sick. Nobody cares if you're having a bad day. Nobody cares if your girlfriend broke up with you 2 minutes ago. You're expected to come on and deliver what they're paying you to do. And so it's so ingrained in me that when the light goes on, you do what you do. And usually my energy's ready when it's time to go. On Wednesday and yesterday, I was so worn out from staying up all night, several nights, and the stress of getting the book done, because we had some issues that came right down to the last minute. But once I got on a live stream, I went live with, was it the first one with Kevin Colby, I think? I don't know. I went live with Kevin Colby. I went live with Jim Fuse. I went live with different people that day. And each time I went live, I felt better because my body just flicked that switch of now we're live and now we're doing this. And so it's sort of like almost like the body knows how to react. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like I've trained myself, almost like an athlete's trained themselves for physical contact or something. I've trained myself for, just from doing this so much that like the light goes on and you're on and you're in broadcast mode and the light goes off and then, you fall on the floor and collapse. But, even if I'm losing my voice, I'm able to, because I really was losing my voice this morning after that stream and everything. I know how to put a little extra into it to make it be heard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do think that, preparation is key. I also believe that one has to mentally prepare yourself when you're doing such a long show. Mm-hmm. I've only once done like a 7-hour stint. And, I prepared myself mentally for that. I had a teapot that was just next to me. I had, the whole day was very well scripted. And so I knew when somebody was going to be speaking for 30 minutes, I could slip away for the bathroom very quickly. So have a plan if you're doing something like that. All things are possible with planning. Ross, I love the cover of the book. How did you come up with the design? I love the simplicity of the cover of the book. How did you come up with the design?
So somebody named Danielle Camerlinga. She goes by D. Camerlinga.
I'm going to put you on full screen for that, Ross.
Sure. Her name is Danielle. She goes by D. Camerlinga on Fiverr. And I found her by reading one of the blog posts of Dale L. Roberts from Self Publishing with Dale, and he basically had this where he gave a book cover idea to, I guess, about 10 people on Fiverr, 10 designers, and he had a really great review of her work, and so I was thinking I was going to go with it, and then I asked him, and he said, "Oh yeah," and so very, very affordable and amazing work. I was floored, and I tried my own design, and I had two. I'm not a designer, and I had I stayed up all night a few nights. Like, okay, I got one. I'm not sure I like that. Okay, then I did a whole nother design, and I even designed the back, and I couldn't find any template for the back, so I just looked at a lot of books and go, this sort of looks like the back of a book. And I showed it to Dale, and he was like, these are pretty much good enough. You could launch with these. I've seen a lot. He's like, I've seen a lot of book covers. I said, well, at least I want to hire a professional to make sure that, the fonts are right, that the title is in the right, that everything's where it should be, because they know sort of what's expected for a book cover.
Right.
So, but then I spent a little bit extra, and I said, do another iteration as though I didn't give you anything of mine, and see what you come up with. And obviously what she came up with was 100 times better than anything I could have done on my own. So
it's beautiful. I love the simplicity of it, the fonts. It's a very, very striking cover, and shout out to Brian. He says the content is even better.
One of the things, there was originally, she had a microphone up here on the side of one of the zeros of the 100, and it had some nice coloring to it, and a lot of people liked it, and I kind of felt like it was a recognizable brand, and I didn't know that I necessarily wanted that. And then I spent a day just grabbing every microphone photo that I could find that was a stock photo and seeing how it would replace it. And everybody was telling me how much they loved the microphone, and I'm sure there were good reasons that they liked it. But I showed it to my parents, and they go, I like it better without the microphone. I was like, done. That's what I wanted to hear.
So there's a question that I forgot, and I always liked, that I was planning on asking you, talking about your parents. What was their take on you going live on camera and being so successful? How have they received this?
I don't know if they know. Can they find? They're never gonna find this. No, they know. They like, when they've seen, they don't spend a lot of time, I don't think, watching what I do. I think they almost like they want to give me my privacy, like I'm at work now kind of thing. But they've seen my stuff, and they enjoyed it when I was in radio. So they enjoy what I'm doing, and they know that I'm passionate about it, and it brings me a lot of joy.
Brian, you are such a hoot. Ross, this was amazing. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed having this time with you.
Oh, this is amazing. Thank you, Brigetti.
It's a big pleasure. Thank you for the amazing book. Thank you for
for being a part of it.
You've put into it.
Yeah, thank you for being such a big part of it. Chapter 46, page 198. If you get the paperback edition, you'll get this. We'll eventually have an ebook edition out that'll have images too. And if you already bought an ebook, we will hopefully be able to send you the upgraded ebook without any cost. Dale's going to work with me on how I can do that. So
wonderful. Ross, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I enjoyed this time talking to you, and
thanks for
you
having
again
me.
for the book and the amazing community spirit that you that you have in the group. If anyone hasn't joined Ross's group yet, please do check it out. I really love the people in the community, and every single person that you've put in the book are just kind, warm, generous people, and I think that's what drew me to it.
Well, thank you so much, not only for having me and supporting the book and being a part of it, but just for being a great friend and a great ambassador for live streaming, somebody who does it professionally, seriously, who's, tied what you do to an important cause in your hometown, but also has gotten exposure really all over the world from this. And you really showed people how you don't need 50,000 people in a crew in order to do a professional broadcast, get your message across, raise awareness of important issues, and just be a first-class professional. And so I'm really honored to be here, and I appreciate all you've done.
Thank you, Ross. And we've got a final viewer request, and how can we possibly say no?
What chapter is it, Brian?
Brian, tell us which chapter it is very quickly.
What page are you on, Brian?
We're taking viewer requests.
You got the chapter number, Brian? It's 100 to go through. Let's see. Here we go. Chapter 50.
Goodness.
Chapter 53, page 225, I believe.
Oh, there we go. You found the chapter.
Page 225.
Awesome.
225. Here we go. Chapter 53. Hopefully you can see this. Chapter 53. Ooh, the green screen gets going with that. Page 255. We'll get the Brian all dressed up, professional.
Oh, there we go.
Can we see that? Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
And so you can find Brian Schulman, page 225 of the paperback, chapter 53, 226 and 227. And his prediction, LinkedIn Live will come out of beta and more businesses include live and native video in their marketing strategies on LinkedIn, is the main quote that I captured. And then another quote graphic that I have says, the growth of live streaming as part of a brand's heart-centered content marketing strategy will continue to increase with a concentration on LinkedIn Live.
And that is an awesome
Read
note
about it
to
in
end
100
the show
predictions.
Read all about it.
There you go. Available wherever great books are sold near you.
Yes. Oh my goodness, Ross, thank you so much. Brian, thank you for being such a great sport. It was amazing having you join us.
Thanks.
And,
this is one of the most fun interviews that I've ever done. So thank you, Brigitte.
Big pleasure. Ross, take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Stay safe and be well. Almost 3 billion people and counting are consuming video content on their devices. Be.Live Media helps brands position their products and services to people at a time and manner that's convenient to them. If you would like to reach your customers and clients and stay ahead of your competitors, then connect with us.